Hello everybody, we are back again. I'm just in the Predator-3 in the cluster sound, cluster center. Essentially, originally it uses the chord. So if I click up here to original, you can see it uses a 5 semi-detuning for voice 2, 7 semi-tuning for voice 3, and 12, one octave higher, is the voice 4. And then uses a strumming. So it sounds like a bit like a guitar. And of course, when I shut it off, I can. Sounds a bit like a kind of E-string guitar. And I see people dropping in the chat room. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's well. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about waveforms and Predator-3. But let me first check that there are a bit more people in the chat room, because sometimes it takes a little bit time for people notice that I'm live. So in the meantime, I play a few of the Ambient 01 bank, which originally are the Predator presets. And there's some very nice sounds inside of it. Also using some FM, because the 3 oscillators in Predator 3 also allow some FM sounds. So if you scroll down, you see you have plenty of presets, and the ones with the bank starting with a 0 at the very start are the Predator 3 and Predator 2 presets. And then if you scroll down, you have everything that starts with a 1 are the original Predator presets from Predator 1.6, and there are a lot of very nice presets inside of it. I'm just playing around a little bit with the ambient sounds. Beetje plucky sound. Nice, isn't it? Some cool sounds. Yeah, everybody welcome. Also, I see Tom Aldrich. Tom is spoiling us this later on in this video live stream with another cool demo, and he uses a lot of power chord. Isn't that cool? Okay, let's start on the plan for today. So there was a remark in the Predator 3 months. We did many videos about Predator 3, and somebody asked about user waves and how to create a waveform from a sample. Well, that's pretty complex. And so I'm gonna do this myself now. And what I did is sample a choir sound from Blue 3, this one. And I sampled the note A. And it's very important that you capture which note you sample, because once you load in this into Predator 3, it's important that you catch the right note, the basic note. So if you are in Predator 3, we have an example bank. In this example bank, there is a default preset user waves big, which you should use if you start creating your own waveforms. Okay, so what happens with it, so I selected this preset, I go to user waves, is that you see only partial of the synth engine. This preset doesn't have any filter function or any additional modulation. You see oscillator 1, 2, and 3, and essentially oscillator 1 is only active, and it says user wave 1, so it picks the first user wave. Well, you can draw a user wave manually. User wave 1, you can draw it like this. You can draw it in partial modes. Then you have the harmonics. Now, I picked here now the waves mode. Or you can select one of the waveforms which are inside here. Or maybe waveforms you did load in yourself. Okay, how to analyze a waveform from a sample? Well, first of all, as mentioned, it's not that easy to pick a waveform from a sample because the waveform is essentially a very short fraction of the sound. It looks at the harmonic content and recreates that essentially. So to load one, you go to Analyze. Here's Analyze, and then you see on the left and the right hand side something pops up. So here has the loading. So I'm gonna load now to on my hard disk, audio drop, and here I pick. You see, oops. Let me see. Here I pick Wave Predator-3. So this is the open, and here it is. And what it does, it creates right away 8 points. So it's the sample of this one. So I made it very dry. I made a sample of it from this note, from the choir from Blue 3. And essentially, you see here is the sample as a WAV file. I can preview it. You hear it? Okay. Now there is an auto extract. Then it moves a little bit. So now I can move around stuff. Essentially, from the sample, I can take 8 of them. Isn't that interesting? So just by moving it around, but yeah, auto extract. I put that off. It's pretty long sample, of course, and I only want to have the harmonic content. So essentially, I only want to have one. So essentially, if it's a long waveform, which has a lot of different sounds to it, then it makes sense that it makes 8 of them. But I go to the user wave 1. Okay, I go back to Predator. And you see, it's very soft. Okay, then we have down here the option to move it a little bit. Okay, now this is the analyze. I go to the wave, back to the wave editing, and you see wave 1, it's very soft. So I could use here, down here, normalize selected waves. And now it pops up already a little bit better. So this is the point I picked. So now you already can hear. Maybe it's a good idea before I did pick the sample to normalize, but I'm a bit too late for that. So number 1 is that point. Here you have the option to change the position in coarse ways. You see it moving? Or in bigger, smaller steps. I can zoom in. And now I'm zooming in on waveform 1. Move it a little bit. And that is essentially the waveform from that moment. Okay. So this is the original sample. so it only picks a certain part of it. So it's pretty much different in terms, it's a very static sound it takes from this longer sample. So this is what happens if you start doing, okay, let's do a reset. Maybe I can go with waveform A to a, and then select waveform here, and use a wave to play it back, because here you need to select the playback. Okay, now you see it's again very soft, but I can, waveform 8 is selected here, and then normalize. You hear a little bit the R sound in it. So the original sound is very important. What I could do is maybe doing the same trick again, but then I create with Blues 3 not a choir sound, but something else. Let me see what we could do, guys. So I go back, I go to the manager, digital basses. Okay, let me take this one. I will now change the sound so that I have a very static. So what I could do is throw out the envelopes so that I really create a waveform. Ah, you see? Now, and I could, okay, I go now in solo and sample. Because I did this solo, you you cannot hear me. So I did sample this, and now let's see what happens if I put that one into Predator-3, because it has far more aesthetic sound from its own. It has far more harmonics, and then in normal cases this would lead to a more useful sound. So I go again to the analyze, load, digital wave, Predator-3 for Predator-3, and here we have this digital wave. Okay, let's pick number 1 again, and then extract. Okay, use a wave 1. Okay, that sounds still the same, isn't it? Let's go back. Okay, I'm just looking for a position, and you see it's still very soft. I should normalize, but that's only can be done on the wave part. So when I go back to wave 1 and do it here, still sounds the same as this choir sound. Am I doing something wrong? Okay, let's go and start again from scratch. And maybe I should normalize this waveform, but that's a little bit harder. Okay, give me a second. Maybe I can do another trick to make it louder, because this was the sound, and I need to simply boost it to have a, okay, now I do. Okay, I'm back again. So again, I put a little bit more volume. Now, analyze, load. Oh, it still is in the buffer, it seems. Okay, analyze and load digital wave. Ah, now it's... So let's see what happens now. You see all the different points. Now I have one waveform and I go, so now I have essentially these options, and yeah, let's throw them a little bit together. And I go back to the wave display, and there I can normalize selected wave. And by the way, I can normalize them all at once by doing this. Keep the mouse over it. So hold the mouse on number 1, keep it pressed, the left mouse, and then move to the right. You select all 8 of them and then normalize waves. So now I have 8 of them. 7 and 8 is empty. But it's still not as the one we should have. Let me see if I have a... It's very difficult, you see. So I'm playing around. So I wonder what I can do to grab it a little bit better. I think the error, and that's good that I do this without preparing, the error is here because the note, I picked the wrong note. Key entry, okay, key entry, and now extract. Okay. It should be picking, set to note. Now it comes. So if you have the right note here, then it starts catching the right, because the note length and the sample length is very determined. And then you still have a lot of... You see, each time, I also can press auto. Maybe note A3. Let me pick another note, because I have a note A3, but well, the sound could be, well, an A4. Because I play a keyboard, but the octave setting of the synth also determines the sound. So A3. Not really. Yeah, you see how difficult it is to get the right sound. Extract. No. Key entry. Okay, let's go to the waves again. Normalize all the waveforms. You see, it's very hard. This is the original sample. Analyze. Maybe I should another. So if I note entry A2, maybe then if I extract, and of course 7 and 8 also should be. And here I still don't get the sound I want to have, because this is the original, which is pretty static. Has a bit of vibrato, but then catching that waveform, it's not that easy, isn't it? Let's see if I use a 1. Okay, select 1. Here I can adjust the length of the waveform. Now it's getting closer. So the trick is preview. This one is getting close. The trick is that to have the right note here, but then also the length which it catches, because that has to do with the pitch, needs to be right. And this you do in this section here. So let me see if I go back to the waveforms and make it again, normalize how far we get with that one. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? So you see, a long time ago that I did this, and I need to so number 1 is okay, number 2 not, number 2 is this one. So then I go here back to analyze, and 2 is selected, and here you see the waveform is too long or too short. That's the reason, it's too short. Therefore, so I'm looking for that's a nice one. Then I go to number 3. So this is the trick if you have more static waveforms, is to look for the right tone, but also then pick up here number 3. Hope I need to select number 3. So I select number 3 and I'm going to listen to number 3. Yeah, so 1 is this, 3, and I go number 4. Now I need to select number 4 and change the length. You see the waveform is too short to have the harmonic content. So here I make the length of the waveform longer so that it fits. And it also changes the color of it. Yeah, nice. So you get 4. Okay, go to number 5. Select number 5. And so you see that we now have essentially already 5 good ones. Let me make then also number 6. Select 6. Number 7. So essentially you can create multiple waveforms from one long 7 and number 8. So number 8, I need to select that one. Okay, this is good. And now I go back to wave and normalize them so that the volumes are better. Normalize selected waves, and now we have this one, 8, 7. So this was the original one. Let's play it again. And I took 8 points, and I had troubles catching the waveform because I picked the right note here. But the trick is to change here the length of the waveform so that you set the color of it. And if you have the right length here, it should exactly be the same as the original waveform here. But by changing the length, you also change the color. So it's still interesting to have it this way. Once you have this ready to go, you can save it as a wave set. So you can save the waveforms. Then you need to pick wave 1, save it with your own name. And these are the internal waves, but you also can select the user waves. So this wave set I can save wave set. And that's pretty empty here, I can see. New wave set, because the ones I created in the past are in the factory patches. New wave set, save. And then you can try using, of course, all the features. So using here the morphing and morph between. Okay, use a wave set. So I made in the start from the live stream a little bit of a mistake that I did not went here. So I've saved this one. So let's go back to the choir sound so that we get that one a little bit better. So I'm going up and down here. Back to the default preset, I go to Analyze, I load the sample. So I do it now in the choir, open. Here's the choir sound. It's a little bit too soft, but I simply throw here on some spots the wave. So in total, I can make 8 waveforms from a sample, grab 8 waveforms. Auto extract is active. The note I can say, which was essentially a 3. I picked that, but that doesn't matter. So this was the original. And now I try to capture that OR sound a little bit better. So I go to user wave 1. It's very soft. Okay. Need to select it also. Aha! There is already an ah. It's only too soft, so I need to normalize. Here it is. So here now you hear the formants, the partials for a ah sound. So the original one was this. And I have it. So my mistake in the start, not getting the waveform right, was because I had the wrong length. So a sample, first waveform, I had this one, but because of the length, I can also have different tones or a bit different harmonic in content. So I go to number 2, and I go again with so yes, go back to wave and normalize. So I have now 1. User 1. Hey. And user 2. Let's go to user 3. And let's see what we can pick here. Ah, that's a nice one. User 3. Go back to wave. Do a normalize. So that's how you create these waveforms, and then you can save a single waveform or a wave set. So we have now essentially 3 waveforms, and I could morph between them. Wave set, and then pick from 1 until 3 in this case. Okay. Why? I did normalize that one. Why does it keep it? So hopefully you could follow me a little bit. It's a little bit maybe dull story about how do you create your own waveforms. And I did not prepare. The only thing what I made is a sample because I wanted to know where to make mistakes. Because I didn't use it for a long time. I know and can tell you where you could make a mistake. So you have a sample. It's wise to normalize it before you enter it in Predator-3. Once you load it, it loads in, and you can place 8 times to positions. If you have auto extract, it does extract, but then you need to shape each waveform essentially by adjusting the length, because the pitch balance and length of the waveform is very important, and that you do up here. So how much samples the analysis, and then you get the shaping of the sound. That's how they did. This is essentially what I'm doing now, is how they worked with the wavetable from a PPG. It's the same story they did. So what I'm doing here is the PPG type of thing. So you pick a sample and you grab a very short part of it, and then you have the harmonic content of it. In the 80s, samples in general is a longer samples, which were not single, what they call this single cycle waveform. So it's only one cycle of a waveform, but of course a long sample of the Squire, what you heard in Blue 3, is a longer sample. So in the 80s, the samples were pretty longer. This wavetable type of thing is typically started in the 80s, early 80s, even before the 80s, I think, with the PPG from Wolfgang Palem, who had 64 waveforms in the wavetable. So, and he at that time also did sample and took the harmonic content from the samples. Exactly the same what I'm doing here, only then, yeah, that was over 40 years ago. Because at that time, memory and computer memory was very expensive. So they had a very small memory. And the original PPG waveforms are also 8-bit. And people might think, oh, 8-bit? Is that not low quality? No, it's not low quality, because there was no dynamic range inside the sample. So this short sample with the waveform content had no dynamic changes. It was a static waveform, and you need bits for having dynamic steps. So 16-bit has a dynamic range of technically versus what was again versus 6, so 16 and 96 dB essentially is the dynamic range of 16-bit technically, but you don't have any dynamic changes in the volume. It's one static volume. It's one, because if I would sample let's say that if I would if you would sample a default waveform, let's say from, if you go here back to the introduction bang and you go to default, yeah, maybe I should do this in Predator. No, in blue. Blue. Let's go to blue. Oopsie doopsie. So you go to blue, manager. I pick the default preset. And if I have a waveform, like this Red3, and I simply have no envelope on it, it's only node on, node off. And if I must see that there is nothing going on in terms of modulation. It should not be. So if I sample, okay, my voice was gone, but I did sample this waveform. And if you then look into Predator-2, because we can load in this sample, you will see it has no volume change. So a waveform is a static sound. Therefore, 8-bit makes no difference because there's no volume change. It's only max out the waveform. So, okay, user waves, I go analyze, load this one. And you see, it's pure static. There is no... zoom in. See, these are static waveforms. There's no volume change, essentially. It's the... You might think there's a volume change, but it's not the case because this is the waveform. So it's the one length of the waveform. So essentially 1, 2. Oops. The key entry helps with the length of the node. Here. Yeah, that's better. Because I had key entry A3, but also can set to node, and then it changes the length here, and you don't have to do this manually. Set to all nodes, okay. Then you see it already picks. Reset. So let's go all very close to each other and then zoom in. Okay. Yeah, these are essentially all the same. Oops. Okay, let me go to waveform 1. And then you see if you zoom in, it's also maybe easier. And then you see the wavelength, because now I can see essentially that there is a particular wavelength, but it's too short, you know, this is too short. So I need to make it longer. And I do this by adding this. Okay, and need to pick the user wave. And there it is. Wave, normalize. So here you see, this was the original. And now I captured it, and you see it's a repeating waveform. So, coming back to the PPG system, so essentially it's the same what we're doing here. We're making wave tables. So essentially very short fragments of the audio. And it has nothing to do with loop points, essentially because it's only one cycle. So essentially it's an endless cycle which is playing from this short waveform. Essentially, if you would, sometimes you see samplers, you see a saw waveform, and if you put off the loop, you will hear only a very short tick, tick. And if you put loop on, you hear a saw waveform. So it's only this short waveform and then looped. So I hope you can follow me a little bit. I started with a very fresh mind to this. So because it's a long time ago that I created waveforms in Predator-3. So to recap, important to do the normalizing the waveform. You go to analyze, you load the waveform, you pick the waveform and you load it. Then you set some points. If you know the note, which still could be different, 1 octave, but if you sample the note A3, for instance, and the harmonics are really set to this A3, sometimes if you have a synthesizer, maybe you sample a synthesizer on the A3, but it has the semitone 1 octave lower. It's not an A3, but an A2. But anyhow, you click on key entry and you press this note A3 and then also set to this note. Then it adjusts the note to the A3. Yeah, most likely this was then already not good because I am in the start point here. Set to note. And most likely it was another note. So maybe 1 octave high. So set key entry. I tried the A4. No, could be also an A2. So I set key entry A2. And let me see, set to note. Yeah, that could be more closer. Okay, let me go back and normalize because the waveform is a little bit soft. Yeah, then it's correct. So essentially, oh no, hey. Yeah. And it's soft because I need to normalize it each time. But you see, it's the note A2, essentially, which is more closer to the pitch of the original sample I did. And you hear this ah. So in this, you hear this ah. But it's a static waveform. So if I zoom in, maybe move it. No, then that's not so nice. I think the other one was nice. Or this one. Okay. I need to zoom in and I need to move. It will be handy if the zoom in is also something for an update. If you zoom in that and you have the selected waveform, that it zooms in on this selected waveform. And here we can see that it really makes one waveform. You see here, because here it starts repeating. So this is really one cycle. And if you have the length wrong, you see, then again, the sound is gone. So need to normalize again. So this is the length. So once you figured a little bit the note, then press set to note, and then it adjusts to this. And now it's wrong because it was then a little bit different. Yeah. You see, it's complex. So pick the code and you can use key entry. If you know it's an A, use key entry and then set to note. And if it's still not okay, pick another octave and then set to note. And set to all notes means that to all the waveforms, you know, so all the 8 points you selected. So we have the 8 points and then you can say, okay, set to note for all 8 of them. Complex, isn't it? Yeah, but it's different from sampling. You do sample, you load in a sample, but you analyze only one cycle. It takes a full day of audition all the waveforms in Predator-3. Yeah, definitely. Therefore, we create a lot of nice presets. So if you go to synth sounds. Then you have the let me see. Where is it again? Oh, this one. So you have the waveform of a bell and a vocal. Here you see the waveform changing. Of course, many of the waveforms you will find in Predator are fantasy waveforms created from all kind of things together. So, and of course, in the user waves, you can make from the built-in waveforms. So if you have the internal waves, you can pick and make your own selection of 8 waveforms and morph between them. So you can say, I start with a saw wave on one, the second one you pick one of the other waveforms and go up, and then you can create your own wave set then with 8 waveforms, and yeah, save that. There are also other tricks. So if I have which I can show you, which is also nice. If you go, let me see, let me go to the example sounds. What is a nice feature is, for instance, you say, okay, on user wave 1, it's this one, you pick this one, and you put on user wave 8, you pick another one, and let me play you user wave 8, that is this one. You hear these ones, so number 1 and number 8 is number 1 and number 8 are totally different. In between is nothing, because these are empty, you see? But what I can do is click on one, move it fully to the right, and then I can say, interpolate between selected waves. And then does it go from user wave 1 to user wave 8 and makes a nice interpolation between, or morph. So, and if you see now, 2, so it goes smoothly to wave 8. So it interpolates in between. So if I use here again the wave set means that you can go from range 1 and to 8. And I use here the mixing, for instance, or morph, or stepped. Yeah, okay, morph. Or mix. So you see, you can, from 2 waveforms, you can create in between other waveforms. So these are also things you can go on. Yeah, you always can watch the live stream back, and what you will see in this live stream is that I did not use the Predator-3 user wave feature for a long time, so I run into things which you would run into. So I must, and then in the whole live stream, we get all the little conclusions already how to do this. So these are additional features which you can do down here. There are a lot of additional features which you can do on the waveforms. You can select one waveform by holding it. You can use multiple waveform and also do these kind of things. So the user wave section is very powerful. There's another thing which is inside of it is that you can, if you have a waveform, you can modulate it. You can shape things here with the, for instance, you can modulate it with a ring modulator. So the waveform you modulate again, and then you press apply, and then, so this is, you're altering the waveforms now by modulating it. So it's, you can draw it, but you can modulate things with all kind of ripples. I can create ripples. Apply. You see, it changes the waveform 1. And I still can edit. Or you do it manually. So plenty of options. So this part is for modulating and changing the waveform by other tricks, which is this section here where you can modulate or put a high pass filter on the waveform, or an octave 1 modulation, odd even changes. So I can change the, oh, here, see, there's a little bug here. Apply. Even. No, I only have even harmonics. You can see it. The uneven are gone. You see the even are gone. But here's a little bug I see. I need to write it down because the text is not pulling up fully 100%. Yeah, it's something we need to fix. So this is also a way to alter the waveform. So you can load in a waveform, which is the analyze. I discussed this before. Or you can pick one of the waveforms here from the menu. You can change it by partials. These are the harmonics, the partials as they call it. You can display all waveforms and do all waveforms editings. Oh, a lot of fun. Or all partials editing. So you have everything visual from all the 8 partials. And this is more the manual way of changing things. Or you can do it by using these kind of modulation of the waveforms. And if you have something cool, you can save the wave set. Then you have all the 8 waveforms you use are saved. You see here we have wave sets in the menu. Brass sets, which are analyzing of brass sounds. I'm not so happy about them. I like more the other fantasy waveforms because, yeah, it's only a fraction of a brass sound. It doesn't make you able to create fully a brass sound. It's the same with sax. Yeah, you have a little harmonic content of a sax, but it doesn't make that you can create a sax sound. But these are the, in this menu, you can select the internal waves, the waves, which are the separate waves, user waves. For you, user wave sets, I just saved one, so I can pick that one. And then you have some other things. And default, it's of course the internal waves. Okay, guys, I hope it was a little bit not fully to the point because I had to discover also a few things, but maybe that makes me help myself. Also, once I make maybe a good video, which is more strict in how to use the user waves in Predator-3, it's way powerful. And the limitation is the human behind the synthesizer, isn't it? Anyhow, thanks for watching. We go out today with a song from Tom. And Tom used a lot of power chord, and it's lovely what he created. So let me play it for you. And yeah, next week we can do maybe another recap of this one, maybe more tight and interesting things we can do with the wave form creation in Predator-3. Anyhow, we go out today with Tom Aldrich. It's called Rocking the Livestream. So guys, we're gonna rock. And Tom, thanks for sending, and the way you use the guitars is very cool. And you also use the manual play mode, I think, to play some lead tones to it. It's really very nice. Okay, we're gonna enjoy it. and it's also going to be added to the Tom Aldrich TA Funk section in the homepage. But first, let's play it.